بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وخاتم النبيين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بالإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, I'm your brother Abdul-Lateef from Arabic Virtual Academy as well as Abdul-Lateef.com. Today, I want to discuss an issue with you, all of you. And this isn't something that needs to be discussed amongst us. Not something I just want to do a video, but I need some feedback on what do you think about this topic. And this goes along with the series that we were doing, talking about educating our children specifically, as well as the youth in general, other people's children. Now, one of the ways that we can really improve something that's been being messed up for a long time is by finding other ways to educate them. And I say this because when many of us look at the issue of education, we were educated one way a generation or two ago. And we see that education is much different nowadays. They have a lot of other tools. They're educated in ways that are more interesting, we could say, than what we're used to. So when we come at the youth, the way that we're used to, or that way that we were come at, sometimes we push them away because it may seem to be boring to them. But we can get the same information to them by using some of the wasa'il, or the ways that are left for them that they use regularly. Like, for instance, we have the issue of, videos. When it comes to our youth, we can sit down and watch different types of documentaries with our children about things that aren't, these average movies that people have going on, that really at the end of the day really doesn't mean anything. We can really sit down and watch documentaries with our children after a certain age, I'd say, up to the early teens, or up to the teenagers, early adulthood, and really discuss with them these issues. Real things like global warming, like, starvation, what it does to people and how much of it is all over the world. Documentaries on homelessness, on prisons, economics, every type of issues that we're dealing with in society. There are documentaries out there. And they'll be able to sit, they'll hear it, they'll be able to sit and watch it visually. And during or after, we can have conversations with them on, what do you think about this? What do you think about what they were saying about this? What do you think about what they were saying about this? This sticks with them because now they're not just watching it, but now they're processing this information and it's becoming part of who they are. It's going to affect the way that they see society and everything around them. This is important. It's not telling them, okay, you have to read a book. You can even have a documentary. All right, I want you to write me a 2-page summary of what you thought about this particular issue in the documentary. Or how do we solve that problem? Now they're processing the information and they're giving it back. You can see how that process of processing the information goes with your children, goes with the youth. They've spent time actually gaining some benefit, something that's going to help them in the future. So we need to find other ways to go about educating the youth in those things that they need to be educated in. So many of them are into the music industry and this, that, and the other. There are how many documentaries out there about the reality of the music industry and how a lot of it is nothing but cinema. And it's this and it's that and it's this and it's that. There are a lot of these artists that have actually come out and explained what their real lives are like and why they do and say that the things that they do, to add some understanding as to these major influences that are going on in their lifetimes. Don't you think this is important? You can have a major effect in the way that your children and the youth in general feel by helping in this education process. You have things like, for those that like to read, you have newspapers, newspaper articles, magazines. You have tons of different types of material that can be taken and processed. This is the important thing, that we make sure that the youth are processing this information that they're given. Because it's not so much about the information. It's their process for processing information that we want to monitor. That one, that they're actually processing the information. Two, how are they understanding the information? Do they have what they need to be able to understand it in the right light? Or are they just from those people that accept everything that they're told? You understand? We have issues like issues dealing with poverty, for example. Or, this whole issue of the upper class and the lower class societies. Issues dealing with slavery or even racism, things along these sorts. There are so many things that can be discussed, and there's so much material out there. Like we said, as far as documentaries, as far as magazines or magazine articles, news articles, all kinds of books, television programs to talk about different ways, not just problems, not just these issues, but we need to be making sure they're processing it so that they're able to look at what are some possible solutions to these issues. These are the types of discussions that we need to be having with our children. We can use all of these tools, the internet, these documentaries, these newspaper articles, these videos, whatever it may be, to get them the information about the topics that they need. The topics that are affecting their lives and will affect their lives in the future. So that they can hold their own opinions based on something. Not just based on, okay, so-and-so said this. Or we saw so-and-so on the television, they're supposed to be an expert, and they said it was like this. And what they said sounded good, so I accepted it. Are these really the type of youth? Are these really the type of adults that we want our youth to become? Or do we want our youth to have enough information and be used to discussing this information and processing this information and being able to sit down and think about possible solutions on how we can overcome certain situations? Drugs, violence. These are things that we need to be educating our children about, feeding them with information, using ways in which they're used to using anyway, in which ways that they find interesting, and then aiding this with the proper type of discussion. This is our role as parents and elders in the community. Not just to sit by and watch them grow up and, tell them, okay, whatever happens, happens. We need to be working hard to shape their minds. And the way that we're going to do this is by putting in their minds enough information about those things that are important now and in the future. By doing this, they're not going to be in a situation a lot of us may have found ourselves in these days and times, where we just accept whatever's told to us because it sounds good. And in reality, we can't really say it's our opinion, because why? We don't have anything to weigh it against. Do you know what I mean? We need to make sure that our youth don't fall into this situation. And doing it may take a little work. But when you see the effects of what we're talking about in this video on the youth, you're going to realize that it was very much worth it. May Allah Ta'ala, bless us in what it is that we're trying to do. May Allah save us and the youth and future generations from falling into traps that we don't need to fall into because of either miseducation, very little education, or no education about these important topics. Allahumma ameen. And if you have any questions or suggestions that might add to what it is that was mentioned in this video, then leave it for us. And as usual, I'll try to respond as quickly as possible. Just ask you to have some patience and spread this information. Because as I say all of the time, we cannot afford to continue just sitting on information when we find it to be beneficial. But rather, we need to work on spreading it so that these changes can come on a communal level. طيب. جزاكم الله خير وبارك الله فيكم. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll see you in the next video to this series. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأستغفرك وأتوب إليك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.